Tēnei hui. Welcome to this Infrastructure and Environment Committee meeting, the last one for this triennium. This is on the 6th of August 2025. I'd like to welcome those that have joined us in the chamber today and also those that are joining us via live stream. And just a reminder that the meeting is being live streamed, and so can we please just turn off our mobile phones, please. We will take a break around 11 o'clock this morning. So, to start our meeting, I would just like to invite Councillor Kaifong to open us with a karakia, please.
Morena koutou. Kia ora tātou. Tūtaua mai ronga, tūtaua mai raro, tūtaua mai roto, tūtaua mai waho. Kia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa, haumia, huie.
Thank you, Councillor Kaifong. And I just want to acknowledge Councillor Trevor Maxwell, who is joining us online today. Good morning. Morena. We'll now move on to item number 2, which is the apologies. There are none today, and so we'll move on, councillors. Item number 3, are there any declarations of interest today? There appear to be none. Next, we'll move on to urgent items not on the agenda. I've not had any raised with me, and the CE does not have any either. Are there any minor matters? We've got Councillor Patterson, then Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and may I start by congratulating you early on your election. Well done. Just harking back to a point I raised at the previous council meeting regarding the Middleton Road upgrade. I received a further email from the residents this morning with a plan, actually, of the road upgrade that is proposed by CSL Limited, which clearly shows the Middleton Road is being upgraded. So I'm just wondering, there is a resource consent pending from us, apparently 2 weeks. They're expecting, according to the email, to have that consent granted, or at least a decision on that. So have we, as council, been involved in the process of upgrading that road at all?
Councillor, this is probably more of an operational matter that we might have all the information right here. I think it's probably more appropriate if you take it offline with and talk to the CE about that, and he can find further information for you.
That would be great. It's just that we've been told there's been no budget allocated to that. So I'm just wondering how a road can go from being basically a dirt track to something quite a bit more substantial without our involvement.
Okay,
thank you. That would be great.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations to you also on your early election. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, and also to acknowledge your service as chair of this committee over this term. Between you and me, maybe one or two of my colleagues might be a handful at times, but I think you've conducted yourself admirably. Well done, you.
Thank you. I appreciate your thoughts. Thank you, Councillor. Any further minor matters? Yes, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and may I join my colleagues in also congratulating you on your successful candidature. 2 quick items, if I may, Madam Chair. The first one I would have preferred to wait for next week's meeting, as I appreciate this may not be the ideal time, but could I just follow up on a couple of weeks ago when we put through the gambling bylaw and policy, and if I can echo Her Worship's comments very appropriately and very sensible comments around online gambling. And could I just remind councillors that at the present time there's the online casino gambling bill being presented to central government. The reason I'm asking for this to be talked about today is unfortunately the bill submissions close on the 17th. So for us to wait till next week would be sort of pushing timeframes. And I just wondered, given the comments that this council made around making sure that gambling proceeds were shared in the communities where they were brought up, presented, if I could put it in that terms, that there's apparently going to be up to 15 online licences being allowed. I don't know if it's the full 15 is the intention, or up to is more of a, as I say, for the unregulated at the present time. And I just wondered, given Her Worship's comments a couple of weeks ago, if this would be something she would be interested in submitting on either personally or, as I say, time is unfortunately against us in terms of getting something through, but I would certainly be interested in if Her Worship wanted to put something through, and she would certainly have my support. One, about the actual bill as being presented about online gambling, but two, to make sure that proceeds are shared equitably, whether that's on a nationwide framework or how those proceeds will be distributed. Again, just being consistent with the issues we've raised with various funds pertaining to pokies in particular.
Thank you, Councillor. And considering that you're right, the timeframe for submissions is tight, probably need to have a quick discussion about whether we wish to proceed with making a submission. That was what you're asking the room, isn't it?
As Madam Chair, and I appreciate next week's committee meeting would probably be more appropriate, but unfortunately just because of time, I felt I had to raise it today.
Understood. Just looking towards Her Worship to see whether she has any comments to make on this.
Yeah, and thank you, Councillor O'Brien, for raising this. It's certainly been an issue raised with this council and also our community. Look, I'll be happy to draft up a submission and send it around to councillors by the end of the week, and then perhaps that leaves another week for any feedback on that. And if we have majority agreements, we'll make a submission on behalf of council. If not, then perhaps just a personal submission so we get something in on behalf of Rotorua.
Thank you for that. So I will leave it at that at this stage because we can't make any decisions.
Very happy with that. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And secondly, just on some comments around the Ohol wall that were presented by Bay of Plenty Regional Council via our heads up. Could I just ask the CE, there seems to be comments around inferior materials that were standard at the time, but were used in apparently are leading a part of the corrosion issues. Have we had any communication from Regional Council whether they're seeking any financial assistance? Because I believe from their comments that they effectively are saying we managed the actual construction. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, I have not had any correspondence with the Regional Council that intimates that we have any role in the asset management of that asset going forward. Any role that this council had in the construction of that wall would be subject to the general principles of New Zealand construction law, which obviously put the responsibility for maintaining that asset with the asset owner, provided that the standard defects liability period was passed, which typically is about a year. So I've provided some general comments there. I haven't got any specific requests that this council has any liability associated with that wall.
Thank you. Could I ask the CE as a supplementary, has he sought any legal advice about whether we have an obligation if requested?
No, I have not.
Okay, thank you. And secondly, could I just ask this, since this will be our last meeting, of this committee structure, the comments, and I'm fully in support of the comments made by Regional Council, my good friends across the road. But I think there's a feeling of the community that we're all a little bit concerned that the entity that's there to monitor the resource consent is the same entity that issued the resource consent, and there's a feeling of, I don't want to say of unease, but we clearly have some in the community who are questioning whether the comments by Regional Council, and it's hard for me as a non-scientist to weigh up who's actually right here. Is it those that are the various associations saying we're very concerned about potential effects, especially when this council is spending a lot of money on sewage schemes to reduce nutrients? Is there perhaps a facility for the next council to have a wider engagement and ensure that this issue is being taken care of?
Thank you, Councillor. Actually, it was noted in the last minutes, which are coming up, that we would indeed ask the Regional Council to come and speak to the next council about this issue, to give us some more insights. And I'm aware that they also have a meeting tomorrow where they'll be making further decisions around how they're going to maintain or otherwise the wall. So it's a space that's
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what my point is, there's a concern that the same people that are monitoring it, if there's going to be an outpouring of cost on this, There's just a concern that, forgive me, but who watches the watchman? And we just need to make sure that any decisions and information is strictly impartial, and that cost, will always be a factor in remedies, but that we truly have an independent status on what, if any, damage has been caused by these holes. But I'll leave it there, so thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor, and for raising it to the awareness again of this committee, and it will be taken forward as well. Thank you. Are there any more minor matters, councillors? On that note, we will move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, item 5.1 on page 6 of your agenda, councillors. Are there any matters for correction in the minutes? In that case, I'd ask for a mover and a seconder that the minutes be approved. That's Commander Tapsell and Councillor Waru. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you. There are no presentations today, councillors, so we'll move on to item number 7, which is the staff reports. Item 7.1 is the Capital Delivery Projects Progress Report. Can I have a mover and a seconder that this report be received? Thank you, Councillor O'Brien and Councillor Kaifong. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you. So this report comes in two parts. There will be an overview from Elrond, and then there will be some confidential items discussed in the confidential part of the meeting, as well as a PowerPoint presentation there as well. So I'll just advise to invite Elrond and Will to come up and speak to the report, and then if you have any questions on the non-confidential part, you're welcome to ask them, and then we'll deal with the other questions later in the meeting, if that's okay. So welcome, gentlemen. I'll hand it over to you to overview your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've invited Will to join me. Unfortunately, I was on leave when the report was finalised, so Will did some work on that, so he's just here to answer any questions that come up. We don't have a presentation today, so I'll take the report as read and answer any questions, again, noting that we have a follow-up on some of the contractual and legal matters in the confidential section.
Thank you, Elrond. Are there any questions, councillors, for this part of the report? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, and thank you for the detailed report. Interesting reading. Just looking at the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, we had a recent heads up which outlined, if I'll just bring that up again on my phone, it's turned off, the spillage that occurred due to the capacity of the holding tank. It said there were no sewage overflows from the wastewater network or wastewater treatment plant. However, due to the large amount of stormwater entering the system, holding capacity for treated wastewater at the plant was exceeded, and this is overflowing into the Puarenga stream. So I recall when we went on a visit there a couple of years ago, I think it might have been, that there was a tank that was going to be repurposed for that. Is that underway? Is that going to be a larger capacity to prevent this sort of thing happening when the new system comes online?
Actually, yeah, Rhonda, if either you or Stavros might like to reply to that, I'll leave it in your hands.
Thank you, Councillor, and through you, Chair. Yes, we're mainly focused on the upgrade, and the idea is to improve the capacity, but this was an operational impact, so if I could defer to Stavros, that would be great.
Through you, Madam Chair, 2 points I would like to make. One is that the overflow from a pre-pumping storage capacity relates to fully treated effluent, not untreated effluent. And the second question is that with the upgrade of the treatment plant, the current treatment capacity of the plant would increase from 40,000 cubic meters maximum to 72,000 cubic meters maximum. So obviously you are into the transition phase at the moment where the plant is upgraded, and that additional storage capacity before we pump to the final destination, which is subject to the exploration, as you know, will almost double the capacity of storage.
Thank you for confirming that. I just wanted to make sure that my memory served me right, because there was a number of people who said, what's going on? So that's really good to hear. The other one is further on, the variation order 3 delayed until November. So why was that?
Absolutely, through you, Chair. Prior to taking leave, last thing I did was actually met with the NIF team. It's taken a while for the new team to take over. The grant and funding has been moved from Kaingora to NIF. We sat down and discussed that. We were originally promised that it would be cleaned up by July and it would all go through, but there's just been delays with the movement of the grant. We have had quite robust conversations about that and how it impacts the progress, because effectively we are carrying out some work at risk based on the variation being approved. They're aware of that. It's been noted. We're confident that the variation will go through, but unfortunately we're at the point now where we're having to escalate it through the Chief Executive to have those conversations at a higher level.
Great. More reassurance. And finally, just on that note, in page 22, it talks about the West 07 Springfield project has undergone scope revision through the Variation 03 process. A consultant has been engaged to carry out pre-feasibility investigations and design. So what does that actually relate to?
Again, through you, Chair. I'd say nothing particularly exciting. An open channel, just to help manage the flow of the stormwater and somewhat detain some of the stormwater. The scope has been significantly downgraded from, off the top of my head, I believe a $12 million investment to a $3 million investment. So it's contouring of land just to better manage the stormwater.
So that's at Springfield?
Yeah, round the periphery of the site. I can provide maps as to where we're currently looking. We're just looking for the most appropriate location to manage the runoff.
And then the runoff goes into the Utahina, and the channel changes, etc., that we're looking at doing will improve that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So although we have 9 projects in the IIG now, formerly IAF, they're actually part of a network solution. So we're looking at the solution almost as an organism as opposed to just individual interventions, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. No, I would like to see that design if that's okay.
We'll have it circulated, no problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and maybe that can be circulated to all the councillors if that's okay, and make that an action point to take away. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councillor Kaifon?
Thank you, Chair. Just in the report, perhaps this might be through the CE potentially, we talk about the wastewater treatment plant remaining in the execution phase, and the next stage is the delivery and strengthening oversight. Given that we have the working governance group, which is working really well with the museum project, is there an opportunity to perhaps set up a similar type of governance oversight group to give more direct input into the way in which the wastewater treatment plant contract and build is managed?
I'll let the CEO answer that.
Thank you, Councillor Kaifong. Absolutely, and as I've indicated to this committee and to Council before, we're in the process of implementing a number of changes to the capital delivery methodology. Part of that is establishment of project steering groups, which have elected members on them. We've implemented a number, so we've got a couple on the museum, both on the operational and the construction, the exhibition and the strengthening project. We've implemented a working group for the recovered water discharge, and absolutely, and timing-wise, it does fall to the next council after the current elections to establish a steering group that looks over our wastewater programs. So a discussion I look forward to having with the mayor after the elections around committee structures and project steering groups. But absolutely, the direction I would like to take us down is to establish those project steering groups to give oversight to the program, including the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you. That'd be, I think, particularly not just useful, but the fact is that this is our biggest capital delivery project and probably has the least oversight at the moment. So the more eyes on this project, both from a professional expertise as well as a councillor input, would be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor, and noted by the committee as well. Thank you to take forward. Any further questions for the team? There appear to be no more. Thank you, gentlemen, for your report, and we might call you back later to answer some questions in the confidential. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to item 7.2, which is the Works Department Integration Progress Report on page 25 of your agendas, councillors. I'd ask for a mover and a seconder that this report be received, please. Mayor Tapsell and Councillor Waru. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. I'd like to welcome Alex and Stavros to the bench today to overview the report, and they have a presentation for us today too. So I'll hand it over to you, team. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, councillors. Apologies for the frog in my throat. It might get worse, it might get better. We'll see how it rolls through the presentation. Thanks very much. So this report is an update from the last presentation that we gave a few months ago to this committee. The purpose is to cover off. Do you want to see? Some of the work completed to date since the last meeting, how we're tracking in terms of levels of service and conducting our work, health and safety. So we've included some statistics on the health and safety performance across the teams. We have a financial update for you, and we'll also cover off some risks and issues. Our integration approach was really split into 3 stages, you may recall. So the first stage was really to get everyone into the business, into RLC, and to get people being paid and making sure they felt welcome, and not to drop the ball, essentially, to keep our services going. The second stage really was to get ourselves, all of our back-of-house services up and running, and our systems integrated. And then the third stage we were looking at applying was using our systems to help improve our ability to plan, schedule and cost our activities, which will help inform our levels of service going forward. So mostly we're at the end of stage 2, with some minor integrations still to go. Just a quick refresher around the background. Back in July last year, the council made a decision to bring Infracore back into council. The sale and purchase agreement was done in October of that year. Planning for integration happened in November, and in February we had the staff transfers completed. And you'll see some of those statistics for the February in the graphs later on in the report, but in the presentation. The objectives we were looking to achieve through integration was stronger financial control and performance, and getting some visibility of cost of services, closer management of our operational delivery, and helping us set priorities going forward. And then lastly, ensuring we had the skills and resource alignments to operate effectively. In terms of the works completed to date, the transition of most contracts, creditors and debtors have been completed. All the payroll requirements are done, and since the 1st of July, the Works Department activities are now sitting in Parks and Waters, respectively. We're still migrating the final assets and data into one council, and once all of that is done, we'll have operational reporting that will come out of the one council system, and that will give us an end-to-end view of lodged requests. It'll help us create maintenance schedules, work orders, it'll help us manage our crews, and we'll be able to better cost and track work as it's completed in the field. Waters will retain 2 systems, so financials will sit within one council. However, the assets will continue to be managed through Infor, which is the industry standard for water utility assets. The recent report completed on the Works Department fleet, so in terms of number 3 up there, fleet replacement, showed that 40% of the fleet is in poor to very poor condition. We have an additional $2 million that was budgeted for in 25-26, the councillors will remember that, through the deliberation process. However, there is an estimated 6.6 that we believe is required over the next 10 years, 6.6 million. The critical equipment that is being prioritised this year includes street sweepers, trucks, utes, CCTV and mowing. The work that was done in terms of the fleet outsourcing produced a management plan, an asset management plan. We are reviewing that, so we're not necessarily taking that as what's required, so we're reviewing that, and that will underpin our program, replacement program and budget. Finally, recruitment. So we've got recruitment into some critical roles remains a challenge. Arborists is well understood, I believe, by this committee, still a challenge for us, and some senior water network operators. We've got contractors filling in for the critical works, and we also note in the report that site traffic management supervisors, so STMS is the acronym that we've peppered throughout the report, are no longer being performed as part of trained staff roles. We're outsourcing where required, but we are also considering some longer term options around that as well. Just providing some of the KPI graphs for you. What I think you can see is there's an overall trend going upwards. So, we're essentially achieving our monthly performance score as per our park audits for maintenance. We do, if you have a look down the bottom, there's the number of audits is the very bottom number. So if you're wondering what happened in February, we had reported that previously. We just had our staff leave, and that impacted an inspection, our ability to do all of our inspections. And what drove that score was a boat ramp reserve that had too much slipperiness. However, we're on top of that now, and we've had some scheduling, so we're confident we're meeting all of our maintenance requirements. Again, here you can see we're having less fluctuation since the team came on board in February, so we are trending upwards, so it's a really good sign. So we've seen a marked improvement in achieving the levels of service around playground inspections since the merger, and we're consistently achieving green as of June this year. The dip in February related to access to some playgrounds for schools over the school holidays. Again, I think we reported that in a previous update report on the active and engaged communities. However, the improvements that we've seen in the last months are improved due to improved rostering, scheduling, and we're driving for more consistent reporting from the teams and inspections, which teams are reporting on as well. Here's our levels of service, just to provide a little bit of context. The Parks team get on average around 100 requests for work each month. This graph shows the time taken to close off those requests. The dotted line shows that our 3-month trend is heading in the right direction over the last 12 months, so we've seen a slight increase there. And that KPI is closing jobs off within a 30-day period. No, so I guess the point I'd like to make here is, while a 30-day KPI is useful, there are some operational efficiencies we are utilising in terms of batching work for contractors, and that's seen a dip in June's figure. But it's essentially a more financially prudent approach to batch work for contractors, so that's mostly in relation to the tree jobs that we've talked about previously with this committee. Given the variation in types of tasks, we also will be exploring different measures related to activity rather than a blanket 30-day measure going forward. All right, I'll hand over to Stavros to talk through the waters KPIs.
Thank you, Alex. Just to reinforce a couple of points with Alex's presentation. Just to remind all of us that the Works Department is a means to something else. The Works Department is a tool to enable us to provide to our communities safe, reliable, and a consistent levels of service. We did have KPIs and yardsticks through which we measure our ability to provide this, those safe and reliable services. And one of these measures, obviously, is how quickly we respond to and proactively managing areas in the general utilities, services that need to be fixed, so their services can be reinstated at reliable levels. You can see that, as we are progressed, through the decisions of the council late, last calendar year and financial year, and the migration took place between the ex-Infraco team into our internal unit. We did have a dip of our responses to our ability to meet our KPIs, and obviously the lowest point was around February, this year. And systematically now, as the teams are getting integrated into our general strategic, operational and risk management planning of our in-house, our resources, we're now paying attention into the productivity and the effectiveness of those teams, to manage our assets in a way that assure service reliability and safety. So we're having an improvement trend compared to where we were early in the calendar year, but obviously we still have some way to go through, and optimization processes, including labor utilization, plant utilization, tasking, and actually reporting the effectiveness of those works, is still underway, and we have some work still to be achieved in that respect. Thank you. Again.
Give that up, yeah. I guess a sign of a healthy health and safety and wellbeing culture is looking at near misses and how often those are recorded. So, having high levels of near misses is a good thing, because it means people are taking ownership around their safety and flagging things, so we can make some good management or good decisions around improving areas where we might have risks. So it gives us visibility as managers. I guess my other comment I'd like to make, in terms of what we're seeing here and my observations of the team, there's a really mature culture around health, safety and wellbeing, and we've got we have a really great level of response rate around incidents and injuries, and they're reported and acted on quickly. Comparing ourselves for where we are now from the end of last year's position, we have seen a 25% increase in near misses. So again, it's a good thing, it's a good sign. 91% of those near misses were recorded in parks, so that's giving us some visibility around, well, what do we need to do, what's causing those, we list in the report some of the things that we're doing around training, hazard ID, some of the equipment that needs replacing, etc., to manage that. Over the last 12 months, we've also seen a slight decrease, so a 5% decrease in incidents, and we've seen an 11% increase in injuries over the last 12 months, largely in the waters area, but also a big increase in parks related to wasp stings. And I guess the other big piece of work that's been completed since the works team have, or the works and waters teams have been part of council, is they've updated all of their SOPs, safe operating procedures, into safe work instructions to ensure manual handling is done as safely as possible. Reported previously, the SOI for the Works Department was indicating a loss of around 3.8 million for 24-25. As at the end of June, this loss was reduced to 1 million. We do note that that's a provisional figure, so and our target was to bring that down under 1 million. So we're still working through the year-end figures and audit. So a paper will be coming up to council at the end of this month, which will have an updated figure for you on the final position. Some of the other key points from the financial tables in your report, revenue is lower than it was under Infracore, as the margin for the Infracore that Infracore added for RLC has been removed. The main reduction driving the operating costs related to software licences, directors' fees, some vacancies, and some loan repayments following the settlement transaction. We are tracking at approximately an operational efficiency, monthly operational efficiency of around 150 to 200,000 per month since bringing Infracore in-house. So we are expecting that to continue to improve. Around risks, I think we mentioned last time these are the same risks that we're managing. Unforeseen transitional costs, I think we flagged the fleet as being a big one in the last presentation. So now that we have that, we've managed to reduce that risk somewhat, but we still want to make a note to this committee that risks may pop up that we haven't anticipated. So we'll keep you abreast of those as if they eventuate and turn into issues. Again, mentioned before, just some of the inability to recruit into critical roles. We're continuing to use contractors where necessary, and we are looking at some of the long-term requirements. Is it better just to continue to use contractors and have a mix of contractors, staff? So those are some of the things we're considering for the longer term, and then long-term location for the works teams. So that's been considered as part of the broader property review.
Can I just a couple of areas to make some points, for myself, because we are together with Alex, obviously all working to integrate the works department into our normal operations. As elected members will recall, late last financial year, the CCO requested the council to provide up to $5 million of additional funding. That triggered the consideration, for you as elected members to decide whether it is cost effective to have a CCO or to bring the teams back in-house. At that decision making, we have made, to the best of our estimates, a budgeted arrangement to say, well, if we need to bring the units back in the house, in-house, we need, we estimate a variance of about $3 million, as Alex reported, through a lot of interventions and activities. That deficit has reduced from $3 million to just about $1 million. We don't want to convey the message that we have everything under total control at this point in time. There are risks remaining in managing operations. There are risks in actually following a proper and optimized replacement of fleet vehicles, asking key questions. We have 4 vehicles for some activity. Do we need 4 vehicles? Are they necessary? Are the right equipment? If we're using a productivity level of XYZ, is that the right level of productivity? Is the integration of these operational units fully in place with our planning activities? So we've got some work ahead of us. We need to continue to optimize, but we do want to convey the message that we have a lot of ways to go to achieve what we consider to be optimum integration. We have achieved a significant improvement in many KPIs, in many elements of the respect, but we still have some work ahead of us to make sure that the equipment, the plant, the vehicles, the productivity levels, the right skills and competences are into place to make the works department an integral part of the council's service delivery.
So the next period, through until December, we'll be completing the remaining data migration and look at developing field input and reporting dashboards. That'll give us the further insight into what jobs are costing us, and there we can model the potential impact of levels of service changes on operational budgets. So that's the final piece of the puzzle really for us. As soon as we've got everything in the system, we can actually start to understand and make decent decisions around where we want to put our money. We are reviewing the proposed asset management plan, and that'll help us prioritise replacements in line with available budget. We are looking at our existing workforce, and there are opportunities to smooth workforce to address things such as seasonal activities, as well as expand resourcing into areas of greater need. And in addition to that, we still foresee using a mix of contractors, particularly around arborists, the traffic management folk, and in our water treatment plant. In terms of finance, all the budgets now sit within the correct business groups, and as the data migration finishes, again, we'll get a much clearer view of the cost of undertaking activities, and that'll help inform our budget build for 26-27, as well as informing annual plan priorities, which we'll discuss with councillors in the new year.
Thank you, Alex, and Stavros. Thank you very much for overviewing what's happened so far. It's been a significant piece of work. I'll just hand over to our CE, to have a few more comments at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, as you've been on this journey this whole time, can I acknowledge that the team have done the start of what's quite a significant, effectively a merger and acquisition process. No additional resource, just reprioritising the work that we've currently got, and largely managed to avoid dropping the ball across a whole lot of critical services over this period of time. A couple of times, Alex and Stavros have mentioned we're not there yet in terms of data, and I need to say, give you the assurance that as we prepare for the annual plan, that's the time we will have the data and the information to be able to support the next council's decision making about that annual plan. A key part of that was integrating the financial systems and the reporting systems so that they're harmonised and we understand the total cost of activity at the activity level rather than at the contract level, which is how it was reported when Infracore were an external party. So I just wanted to make those 2 points, acknowledging the work that's been done and no critical failures, etc. Not perfect yet. The time frame for giving this council the ability to make those decisions more long term will be with the next annual plan.
Thank you very much. On those comments, I'll throw it open to questions. Councillor O'Brien, then Councillor Patterson. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Alex and Stavros, for your report and the comments by LCE. Could I ask first, please, the comments around the $6 million. So the asset management plan has been provided and suggested prioritised replacement, which you're saying that up to over 40% of the mobile fleet is considered to be in poor or very poor condition. So $2 million of the fleet and mobile plant for the first year. So that's, the 25-26 year, current year? And where does that $2 million come from? Is that from council investment or from current budgets?
It was included as part of our, so we put it on top of the existing budget that we had in there, so as part of the annual plan conversations that you've all had leading up to this financial year.
Thank you. And the total of 6.6 required, that's in addition to the 2 million?
That's the total amount, is my understanding.
That is the total replacement value of the fleet. And obviously you have identified the number of, of equipment to the value of $2 million reached the very poor condition. That's why you have approved in the annual plan a $2 million replacement renewal, asset renewal in this year. And eventually the $6 million needs to be continued, maintained and renewed. As I said earlier, we are not at this level of confidence yet to say we actually need all that $6 million. So we need to do optimization of the fleet. Do we need all the vehicles and so on? But that's a replacement value of the fleet.
Thank you. But the $2 million you're satisfied with will cover the most urgent in terms of health. Sorry. Right. Thank you. So the 6.6, that's in today's dollars?
That's correct.
So if we take it over a longer period, that could be in the vicinity of $10 million.
Well, I don't want to put a number onto that. Obviously, when you
we've already put one number on.
There is GCCPI and cost of price and goods indexes, which need to apply to that. Yes, like anything, as you pay today, it's going to cost you more in 10 years' time.
Oh, haven't we learned that lesson? My next question could I ask on page 27 of our agenda, part of 3.1, I think, in your report, if I can quote here, just so I'm reading it, not putting words in your mouth, the safety traffic management supervisor functions that have been previously carried out by staff with appropriate training, but now due to union direction, they are no longer performing this function. So, forgive me, was the training appropriate or not?
The training was appropriate. However, the union provided, felt that it was a risk they weren't willing to take for their members.
But this is a job we were already doing?
Correct.
So can I ask, who allocates jobs to employees in our departments? Is it management or is it the union reps?
We, I guess, probably a broader response to that question is we are looking at whether or not that activity is safe for all of our staff. So we have a piece of work underway to consider other ways in which we conduct, particularly the garden bed work that keeps our staff safe.
So, sorry, are you able to elaborate on what was the actual concern of the union?
That the staff were being put at too much of a risk in terms of having to do both gardening work and traffic management as part of their roles.
Through the chair, can I just jump in and clarify a couple of things? So firstly, Councillor O'Brien, we assign work to staff, not the union. This disagreement between us and the union is causing us to reconsider whether this is the right way to deliver our services, and we're going to continue to do that, and that's one of those items that we'll have ready for the next council to consider. However, I want to be very clear that we are confident that the training we have provided our staff is sufficient to keep them safe in the performance of their duties.
Thank you. So could I ask what actually prompted, have there been incidents? Has there been an incident of any sort?
No incidents. I'd have to check if there were any near misses for you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've answered that. Fine. And my final question, please, and I understand this will be part of the wider property review we're probably doing. I take it now that Infocore is in-house. The current base for Infocore seems to me very underutilised in my visual opinion, the times I've been there. If we were to move somewhere else, if there was a profit made out of that, does that come back to council or does it go back into the works department?
The property onto which, let's call it the depot, the Vaughan Street depot at the moment, it's council property. We are at the moment exploring the possibility, as you're aware, of doing a strategic assessment of our property portfolio and asking this critical question: should that property be used as a depot, or should be used for better commercial, outcomes? We are in the process of looking into that at the moment and exploring a number of options, which we report back to the council in due course. But if, for argument's sake, for simplicity, that the works department was located somewhere else, and that Vaughan Street property was available to the council for sale, if for no other purposes, any revenue from that comes to the council. It doesn't belong to the works department. The works department is part of the council. It's the council's property.
Thank you. I'm just trying to find ways to look at the $6.5 million in other contexts, but thank you. You've been very helpful.
Well, I remember with the $6.5 million, I think you, as elected members, you have consistently made decisions to fund the depreciation of your various assets through your renewal programs. You are spending somewhere in the region of $45 million a year on the renewals of assets. Fleet is just another asset. So you are funding it through your various strategic decisions you have made there too. And the key question is how much of those assets, fleet assets, we required or not. So it's not about not funding them, it's about doing funding at the optimal level.
Certainly, and I totally support everything you've just said. I would just add the comment though that we don't fund it, ratepayers fund it. And any opportunity that we should have to reduce that amount, we should certainly take very seriously. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for your answers. So we'll go to Councillor Patterson, then Mayor Tapsell, Councillor Waru, and then Councillor Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again for your report. Some interesting ones there. Just touching on what Councillor O'Brien raised, he stole a couple of my questions. Just to drill down a little bit deeper on the 6.6 million, that won't be showing in the current LTP, correct?
It does. It's part and parcel of asset depreciation.
Oh, very good. Okay, so we won't be expecting a bump in that. That's good to see. Carrying on from that, touching on the health and safety issue, as you probably are aware, Chris Bishop has been jumping up and down on this quite considerably, and now he's come out with a statement that says councils will soon be forced to use a common sense approach to risk assessment before receiving government funding. So this was only a few days ago. So have we had any direction or any indication what that might mean and how that could impact as far as us making significant cost savings with our health and safety programs?
I don't really want to make a comment on the minister's definition of common sense. Not sure what that means. However, where the government exercises financial leverage on council is mainly through the transportation funding assistance rates. The regime we've got at the moment with regards to reporting on our utilization of those funds that came from the government, it requires us to report regularly as to how much money we spend within our contracts that is related to health and safety or traffic management control, especially on roadsides. And we're reporting that on a regular basis, every quarter at the moment. It remains to be seen whether the government have any particular and precise definition of what is a common sense versus what is a necessity to meet the health and safety obligations of a PCBU unit. So I would leave it at that at this point in time.
If I can add through you, Madam Chair, at the end of I believe the last council meeting, the CFO reported on some savings we had made and delivered to council as a result of changes that we have actually seen in traffic management requirements. So what that illustrates is we are very responsive to changes in guidelines, regulations, etc. in the industry, and we obviously take every opportunity to look at whether we are cost effective as a balance with the responsibilities we still have to keep our people safe. So notwithstanding Stavros' comments around definition of common sense, when regulations change and allow us to be more flexible, we do absolutely take a risk-based approach and make the most, in our view, the most efficient decision possible.
Thank you. That's reassuring again. I hark back to an example that Councillor Brown raised with the project out at Lake Okaraka, where a quote was given for trimming some trees that were causing traffic problems, and the quote for trimming the trees was $12,000, and the group thought, yeah, we can do that. And then the quote for the traffic management was $10,000. Now, to me, if we can get that sort of handle for our operations under control, then that would be a great saving for our council. Moving on to my last question, which goes back to the parks and operations side of things. Just wondering, I don't know if you'd have the figures off the top of your head, it's a fairly recent and regular occurrence, the damage being done to places like Westbrook Sports Fields by the dirt bike hooligans. Have we got any idea how much that is costing us and impacting on your budgets?
Through the Chair, we can pull together the most recent information for you, Councillor. We did a little bit of analysis a while back, and I think the rehabilitation cost itself per event wasn't really high. It was around, and Rob's sitting in the back, so he can tell me if I'm completely out of whack, but I think it was around, $1,000 to do the fix. Probably the bigger impact is the time out of play and the having to reschedule where teams play, on any given weekend, and that can take about a month's worth of disturbance to those, until the fields are ready to be replayed on. But if you're interested in the most recent statistics, we can pull that together for you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll leave you to take that up with Ms Wilson. Thank you. Now we'll move to Mayor Tapsell.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Through you. My question is regarding the critical roles, but can I first of all just congratulate you and the team. The merger of this core service from a separate council organisation back in-house and under our control has obviously been very beneficial. So very pleasing to see the delivery of those desired outcomes of not only a better service but more cost efficiencies, quite significant benefits we're seeing today, so thank you. Regarding the critical roles, in particular seasonal workforce, we know in the past that mowing of lawns and also cutting or reduction of trees that are posing a health and safety risk has been of critical concern to our community. So do we have a plan in place moving towards the end of the year to ensure that these core services will be able to be delivered? And I'm just curious on if possible the contractors that we are using there is a priority on local first. I know in the past we have had local arborists that have wanted to tender for some of the work, but their operations were too small at the time to deal with the significant amount of trees that we had to deal with. So I just wonder if there's opportunity there to bring them on board and use local first as well.
Through you, Madam Chair, thanks for the questions. Thanks for the recognition of the work, and I guess I'd also like to recognise Stavros and I are just a small part of this integration. It's required finance, it's required IT, it's required all parts of the business to pull together. So, a real group effort. To answer your question, yes, we are looking at how we smooth our workforce to deal with seasonal peaks and troughs. So there is a plan underway to do that. In terms of arborists, I think the point in the presentation was we struggled to get contractors because we were saying we've got a piece of work for you right now, can you do it? And they'd be like, no, because we already have a full program. So us moving to a batched approach is ensuring we actually get it happening when we need it to happen. In terms of utilising locals, you'd certainly, when we've got procurement up, we'll always be looking at kind of our preferred suppliers and look to utilise local where possible, where they have the right equipment for the job as well.
Thank you. And now moving on to Councillor Walu, please.
Tēnā koe te Siamana o tira, tēnā kōrua. Thank you for the report. Great information, great effort. So, like you said, teamwork, so ngā mihi kia koutou. Just a couple of things. One of the slides, and it had minor off-track and off-track. Just wondering if you could kind of explain or expand a little bit more about what the difference is, please.
I might actually refer that to Rob. He'll have the thresholds, I'm sure, at the top of his head.
Thank you.
I thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, for a number of measures we have set what we have considered to be the appropriate threshold, and a classic example is playground inspections all done as 100% is on track. We want all the playground inspections to be done, and I think 95% is minor off track, and anything under that is off track. So, it causes us to make a change to what we're doing. So those thresholds at the levels of service there for the parks average, which has just come up, off track there is under, I think is under 80%. That's when we go out to the park and we look at everything. Has the mowing been done according to specification? Are the toilets cleaned according to specification? Is the weed eating done according to specification? Everything gets scored. If we have 80% or less a score, we go back to our works department and we say, hey, look, guys, what are we going to do about this? Okay, minor off track, we're seeing trends. On track, it's looking good. So those thresholds have been set for a variety of parameters that we're showing here.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it's cleared it up for me a little bit there. Next one was, so thanks, Rob. The lease, the fleet. What percentage of our total fleet is actually leased versus owned?
I believe we had out of 120 vehicles, 130 pieces of equipment. I think we had about 60 of them on lease, and we think that's cost inefficient, and we're trying to manage them more directly at the moment.
60. Okay, thank you. And the last question I had was just the savings that are being made, which is music to my ears. It's great to hear. Just wondering if you can be a bit more detailed around exactly where we're making those savings, on how we're making those savings? Is that from, we had contracts with Infracore in the past that obviously they had a markup in their contracts. Is it to do with, less staff or, just a little bit more detail around that, if possible? Thank you.
I think we need to start, thanks, Councillor Warren. I think we need to start from a layered approach. And obviously, as I said earlier, before this decision was made for the CCO to be disestablished and brought in-house, the CCO requested from the Council, I think from memory, about an additional $5 million of funding. Once you made the decision to disestablish a CCO, you started removing costs, overhead costs, like the board of directors, senior management teams, chief executives, separate, monitoring systems, financial systems, and so on. That's all your indirect costs that have been taken out of the picture. Then the second layer of efficiencies comes from actually allocating the right number of labor and equipment into a particular task. Simply because a CCO was allocating, and I'll use numbers for effect here, 3 vehicles and 6 people to do one task. It doesn't mean that was an efficient way of doing the work. So by bringing them in-house, we achieve, we consider the ways of allocating core elements of productivity into the particular tasks. And especially as we had some vacancies that were not fulfilled, the fundamental question was asked, do we need to fill all these vacancies or we can achieve the productivity improvements? So a combination of that, and actually addressing the most important elements of our assets, our services, it produced productivity gains that enable those tasks to be done to meet safe, reliable services at lower core inputs into this. In jargon, in the sector, we call them, we have achieved productivity increases to offset the indirect costs that no longer needed, but also to utilize a slightly smaller workforce to do the same tasks and achieve the same productivity gains we would expect to achieve.
Can I just add, Councillor Watteau, through you, Madam Chair, I feel like that question has been asked a few times, and one of the reasons we're not able to give you as maybe a definitive answer as you and other members would ask for is what Alex mentioned in terms of integrating the financial systems. So we're trying to compare 2 different cost bases, and it's quite hard for us to reconcile exactly where those savings have come from. The reason you've got a significant saving is when you made the decision to bring Infracore back in-house, I gave you an undertaking that we would work within the annual plan budgets for that year, and we would wear any minor level service changes you've seen. So that's the brief to which the team have worked. They've used the resources, they've worked within that capped ceiling, and now we're starting to align financial KPI reporting systems so that we can start to make some more nuanced decisions and projections going forward about the cost profile. So unfortunately, I can't give you a line-by-line answer because the lines never matched up. One was an external provider, which had different technology systems, different team organization structures than we have now. So the team have worked to work within the cost cap. That was my undertaking to you. Council accepted you'd accept any minor level of service changes. We're now reflecting back to you what they've been able to do. With the data in and the financial system now aligned, we'll be able to give you some information to the next council as part of the annual plan about what possible future scenarios look like. So sorry, long answer, but I would love to have the data. Because we don't have it, we're reporting it the way we are.
Okay then, Ange, I'll let you off the hook. Thank you. But I do understand. You need more data. You're going to get more information. It will come. So I'll leave that one there. Thank you. And actually, just going on Mayor Tapsell's quarter around the locals thing there, I think there's a lot of local companies and a lot of local businesses that maybe can't bite off the whole chunk, but I'm pretty sure if you're scheduling, which is great to hear that you're thinking in terms of not doing it next week, can you do this? That's really difficult for our locals because they've got stuff lined up. But if we can plan quite a bit forward. I'm pretty sure they'll put that into their cycle, and we'll get that. And there's plenty of work to go around. So I think it's a great thing. Just my last question, and thank you for your indulgence here, Te Tiaman, that was around. There were certain, I suppose, relationships when Infracore were Infracore at the time over there. So working with the local Ngāpuna people and things like that, and bringing through Uri Māori workforce iwi. Well, that is there any thinking to continue that particular or those particular kaupapa moving forward?
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess a question back to you, Councillor. Are you hearing something about us not maintaining relationships? I would think that we have have existing relationships with others.
It hasn't been spoken about or anything for a while, because I understand that the process has been happening. So I'm just wondering if that's still in the thinking.
I think from our perspective, as I said earlier, the Works Department is a tool for Council to deliver services. It's not an objective in itself. Council has repeatedly made the decisions and gave us specific directions, to maintain our relationships with, iwi, mana whenua, local communities in all respects. Whatever tools we use to maintain these relationships, it's relevant to some degree. We are committed to maintain these relationships, and if something comes to your attention that you're not staying faithful, to those commitments, please let us know and we'll work from that. But certainly the migration of a CCO to Works Department as a tool to deliver a service should not affect the strategic direction you are giving us consistently.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment, and just to be clear, that it's nothing of that type of that nature. It was just myself being, just wanting to know, because haven't seen anything sort of in the reporting about those particular things. We have also had a kaupapa when we were working with, I think, the Ministry of Social Development at some point around bringing people through, because we had a workforce issue, and I think we probably, by the sounds of it, there's still a little bit of that there. So, it was around that. So, thank you, and hope to see a bit more of that if I'm back. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor, for clarifying. Thank you. We've got now Councillor Brown and then Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if we could have the health and safety graph up there again. Alex, I get the impression from you that you're comfortable with these numbers. I'm not sure I am. And my understanding of health and safety is near misses lead to incidents, and incidents lead to something catastrophic potentially. Can you just run me through that, your thinking and where we're at with this?
Yeah, no problem. An issue is where you have a low number of near misses lodged, which means you're flying blind around where you need to potentially intervene or have a conversation about doing things differently. So a high figure around the near misses, while it might look alarming, allows you to actually take some action. So that clarifies that point, hopefully. Am I comfortable with the figures? No, but at least now that we have the data, we can actually understand where are those incidents happening, what do we need to do in terms of interventions. I think we mentioned wasp stings being one. We need to take a look at that and say, well, how do we avoid that? When's that happening? Is there a different way to conduct our work? So, you ultimately want to get your incidents and injuries very, very low. But the information allows us to make some good decisions around that.
Thank you. Just following up on that, do you have a goal then around this? Is there a target that you might set for the next 12 months? How do we measure success in this space, benchmarks or a reduction in these sorts of numbers?
Now that we have the information around where these incidents are happening, you'd expect to see those tracking downwards based on new safe systems of work, improved PPE, whatever the mitigation might be. So we can track that now. Having difficult to put potentially a target on it. unless there's something in the water space, but certainly seeing those track downwards or those incidents reducing. It's very hard, it's a risk-based system, and so, what we know is involving workers and identifying risks is the best way to manage health and safety. So a lot of the training's based on risk identification, which I think I mentioned as well. Do we have a target? No, but we would expect to see those track downwards.
I think the targets we will need to set, just to reinforce what Alex said, reporting near misses is an important input into actually identifying the issues. If you get low reports, that means you don't know what's going on. It is quite important. And I think our target would be to reduce not so much the incident, but injury and loss of of time, loss of working time. So we haven't established a zero target at this point in time because it probably is unrealistic. But I think we need to do a historical trend assessment and actually aim for a trend that is downwards. Bring it down all the time, and we'll be working on that direction.
Councillor Brown, if I might just add, there's graphs and statistics only tell part of the story. And I think the missing layer that maybe we haven't talked about but absolutely exists is we need to make sure we've got the culture in our organisation that translates those near misses into learnings and into action that then avoids the risk of any incidents and frankly avoids the same near miss from reporting again. So whilst I agree that a high number of near misses can be a good canary in the coal mine to the organisation, it's on us, it's on leadership to then translate those into actual measures that mitigate the chance of real incidents. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then, as Stavros mentioned, maybe the next annual plan's the time for us to understand what Council's risk thresholds are, and that'll be the time for us to have a broader discussion around all risks, including health and safety, and what the function of cost is.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we'll finish with a question from Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your reports. And I well recall coming on board as a councillor, and Infracore the wheels were busy falling off at the time, and I think what the report you've presented to us today demonstrates is that our decision to bring this into our council is entirely vindicated, and everyone involved should take a bow, in my view. The ratepayers, I'm sure, will be delighted to know that there's a $1.6 million decrease or improvement in the financial position as a result of this. Wonderful news. That's due to savings from NetSuite software costs, director and board fees, consultant fees, staff costs associated with commercial staff, and efficiency savings. All wonderful news. I'm wondering if you could provide any insight as to how we could expect the opposite from the local waters done well, where the government's trying to push us into a council-controlled organisation.
I will withhold my counsel on that because that's not on the table for discussion today, I think, Councillor Lee.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out either. Thank you.
I think it's a separate issue which we'll leave for today. Thank you very much. And on that note, there appears to be no further questions, councillors. I'd just like to thank your teams for the work that you've done so far on this big piece of work. It's great to see that some of the efficiencies and cost savings happening, and we look forward to the data helping us to make decisions going forward in a prudent fashion. So thank you very much to you and all your teams. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.3, the progress report for infrastructure and assets on page 35, councillors, and then we'll probably take a break after that. Could I have a mover and a seconder that the report be received, please? Thank you, Councillor Patterson, and seconded by Councillor O'Brien. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you. And I welcome Stavros back again to overview his report and make a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From discussing inputs to outputs, and this is, that's the progress report. I will take the report as read. I just want to make and take any questions elected members may have. Happy to do so. I just wanted to make some preliminary, some high-level comments, with regards to the report. Obviously, this is the last report for the financial year and obviously for the triennium. I just wanted to thank elected members, on this committee for receiving and providing always constructive and instructive advice to us as officers, because it's an important element of us trying to improve, the work, we're doing in those areas. But coming back to these reports, I'm pleased to note that as we come to the end of the financial year, all our proactive and reactive programs of work have been completed. Our KPIs and non-financial KPIs remain in the green in terms of infrastructure projects. Our waters, stormwater, sewage, transport areas, we are all in the green KPI zone, which is, it's a good indication as to whether our programs are effective. Our capital renewal programs have delivered in line with the objectives to maintain a stable asset condition, and again, within the parameters, of your financial decisions or making. Major projects, capital projects, continue to be delivered, although we do have a slightly different delivery methodology with the capital management team, programs team at the moment. The wastewater treatment plant, the recovered water challenge, as we're going forward, the stormwater master plan, and obviously continue to deliver the stage 2 of Lake Tarawera articulation scheme. We are working now at pace with regards to convert our property portfolio into a strategic outcome, and we are currently undertaking a significant and comprehensive condition assessment for all our property levels, which are worth about $650 million, and those condition assessments will lead to an informative asset management plan and asset management policy, and obviously that will lead to decisions like we were discussing earlier about things like such as a Vaughan road, side property. What are you going to do with that? How to maintain existing facilities? Where do you have challenges? And so we are undertaking that work to be informing the next elected body. Also, with regards to, I think Councillor Patterson asked an earlier question with regards to the government's national policy statement with transportation. Our teams continue to be optimized and adjusted to meet a new NPS. As you are aware, the National Land Transport Programme has allocated zero funding for shared paths, zero funding for road safety improvement projects, and we are undertaking an internal review of the services with regards to adjusting our resources to in line with the funding allocations we've got in that respect, and we are progressing along those lines. It's quite pleasing. You see in the report that the National Road Efficiency Group has assessed the asset management planning frameworks for transportation for many TLAs, and we are on top of the top 3 transport asset management plans for under that energy for the whole country, and that's quite pleasing. That means our condition of the asset is stable, the efficiency of spend on our roading asset is at a high level, and obviously the principles we apply to make multi-criteria assessments where to invest is still valid. And when you have a national group like the Road Efficiency Group actually validating and vindicating the approaches they're taking, and to be on top, on the top 1 or 2 or 3 councils, in the council, in the country, that's a good outcome. And finally, elected members, I wanted to express a general gratitude and thank you to a lot of our staff. As you're aware, last week we had a weather event where extensive rain was predicted and forecasted. We had a lot of people in the region that were getting sensitive to the potential to declare emergencies because of extensive rain, and perhaps a lot of things that gone on for unseen by many in the community and many of elected members. On Tuesday and Wednesday night, we had a significant number of our staff who actually donned their wet weather gear and went door knocking onto the Nongodaha because we identified as a vulnerable area. The Bay of Plenty Regional Council's flood modeling, people were telling us that Nongodaha will exceed its capacity with potential flooding. So we had at least 15-20 of our staff door knocking to every house in that area to talk to people, to ask them if they feel safe, they wanted alternative accommodation, they wanted to go somewhere else, they wanted support, and touch wood, by fortune and good luck, the Nogodaha stream did not exceed its capacity. So that's quite good. But at the same time, a number of our teams were out on the roads looking at the fallen trees, clearing cesspits, clearing drains, clearing debris from the road. And again, most of people went back to work on Wednesday. By Wednesday afternoon, and life continued as usual. So while we are undertaking good asset management practices and operational procedures too, I don't want to finish this last meeting without expressing my personal thanks to a large number of staff who are out there beyond the call of duty, unpaid. Most of them is not overtime paid or anything like that. They volunteer their time to protect the community, and I think it's quite important to acknowledge that, that effort, staff are making. So thank you very much, and happy to take any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Stavros, and thank you very much for your acknowledgement of the team the work that goes on behind the scenes often is not seen, but makes a huge difference to the safety and the resilience of our communities. So thank you to the team as well. And I'll just now open up for questions to Mayor Tapsell and then Councillor Patterson.
Thank you very much, and also we echo the thanks to the many staff that were out there not only clearing up but also working proactively to ensure the community was informed with the weather events coming. My question is regarding stormwater and what we can do before an event occurs. So I do note in the report that you do mention there's work included such as clearing key inlets and also checking critical sites. Can you speak in particular to any work that's happened around Ngongotaha? The community are feeling a lot more confident now since since the last time we had to declare a civil defence emergency, because I understand there's been quite significant work undertaken on and around the Ngongotaha stream itself, which we know is one of the key areas of concern. And then secondly, also, we did see some slips occur across the district, some on main roads that prevented traffic for a short period of time. Thank you again to the people who cleared that as fast as possible. But is there any areas of concern that we know could pose risk of slips? And I just ask because it's all fine if the slip happens before a car goes by. We just wouldn't want to know that there was a risk of a slip and it occurs and injures or severely injures a motorist or anybody else. So if you could please answer those two questions. Thank you.
Quite a number of questions, Your Worship. First of all, with Ngongotaha, as elected members probably are aware of, following the April 2018 flooding of Ngongotaha, 2019 an independent review of the event took place, for which it was co-signed by ourselves as Rotorua Lakes Council, the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, and each party undertook to take certain actions as a lead agency. Our lead agency role has been with regards to both town planning regulations when we're building new houses, to continue to maintain and ensure that our airborne stormwater system is always ready to receive storm. And the Bay of Plenty Regional Council's lead agency role was to improve the capacity of the Ngongotaha channel between State Highway 5 and State Highway 36 on the Ngongotaha Road to a capacity that meets a 1 in 100 year event. Unfortunately, that work has not been progressed so far at this point in time. I know the Bay of Plenty Regional Council are working towards that outcome. However, the community there, especially when we visited them on Tuesday night, they had that concern: when are we going to finish that work? And so that's ongoing piece of work. We'll be working with the Bay of Plenty Regional Council to progress. With regards to your question about proactive preparation when a storm is forecasted, generally our contractors are out and about as much as we can to identify cesspits. We've got about 5,500 cesspits into the urban area that they need to be checked out. We've got debris arresters, and obviously we've got a degree of responsibility to proactively identify potential vulnerable spots for landslips. You will notice in the report that every year we report to you systematically resiliency projects, and those resiliency projects involve mostly the strengthening of identified weak embankments, slopes on the roads, improving the flow of stormwater, and obviously we'd like to do a lot more. The question is how much you can afford, all in one go. The biggest piece of work we're undertaking at the moment, we have an operational agreement with the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, because it doesn't matter what we do with our pipes. At the end of the day, it all depends what the capacity of the streams, are to receive water, and working with the Regional Council to identify maintenance programs on all of our main streams, Utihina, Magakahi, Otamatia, Puringa, Otuatiti, and all these areas. And there is no substitute for systematic, maintenance of those channels to enable waters to flow. So it's an ongoing process, but to the best of our resources limitations, we try to identify and react to that. Thank you.
Thank you. And just supplementary to that, and thank you for those answers. Myself and others do remain deeply concerned that we're coming on almost 7 years since the Ngongataha flood, and while we as a council are doing all that we can, there seems to have not been the action that was required by the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. What can we do to encourage them to prioritise this work? So for our community, they may not understand the difference between Rotorua Lakes Council will look after the surrounding land, but Bay of Plenty Regional Council has responsibility for the stream or the river itself. It poses two key concerns. Number one, risk of flooding again to the residents nearby. And number two, as we look to further develop with the many houses that are coming into the district. Is there anything more that we can be doing to encourage Regional Council as well?
Well, at officer levels, obviously, we are working, with the Bay of Plenty Regional Council to expedite that, piece of work. To be fair, there were some delays because of them trying to secure the agreement of some landowners to allow a secondary channel in the Ngongataha stream, and now they are progressing that, there too. Also worth noting that in 2019, the estimated cost of those works was about $5.5 to $6 million. The latest estimate for them is about $21 million. So obviously they are considering their financial limitations in that respect, which it indicates sometimes that making an estimate on a project is not always that accurate. Thank you.
Thank you, Stavros. And just noting that your concerns, Mayor Tapsilo, she will just make a note to perhaps we'll try and progress some conversation or a presentation to this committee or a subsequent committee to have the Bay of Plenty Regional Council update us on where they're at with that. Thank you. We'll move now to Councillor Patterson and then Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, thank you again, Stavros, for another great report. Just looking at the subject of stormwater and rainfall, etc. I note the comments about the Morey Street and Linton Park dams pretty much nearing completion. Was there anybody pop up and have a look and see how the rainfall, did that have any impact on them at all, being not quite ready yet? Were they handled it okay?
We do have a dam management policy, Councillor Patterson, that requires us to do a pre-event and post-event inspection of those dams, so we'll definitely do that and no damages. Worth noting that the event we had last week, although it was persistent rain, it did not meet the threshold of 1 in a 100-year event. So those dams have been, fine. We are waiting now for the Linden Park retrospective spillway consent, basically that allows us to lift and adjust in the spillway levels and detention capacity, which expected to be in September this year. But no, those facilities are in place and they function as they should function. And because of the rain, they did not require to reach anywhere near their maximum capacity. The Morey Street dams combined, they've got a 250,000 cubic meter detention capacity. Linden Park has got about 300,000 cubic meters. We were only about 10% of that at that point in time.
Fantastic. And touching on what Mayor Tapsell talked about with regards to Ngongataha, the subdivision out past the Waititi Bridge, with the earthworks now well and truly underway, was there any assessment done to see if any water flow changed because of those earthworks? Anybody check that out at all?
I'm not aware. I mean, earthworks, resource concern conditions, are the responsibility of the Regional Council to monitor. But within the scope of our assessment of effects on the storm last week, I'm not aware of any adverse effects resulting from that development. So if there was something, I would know, but I'm not aware of it.
Very good. And finally, still with Nongataha, I note there is a meeting next week on the 12th at the Community Hall, the future of Nongataha. Will stormwater be part of that, potentially the Western Road project, etc.? Will that all be there for the public to find out about?
Well, I believe so. I think the project team from the Berkeley Regional Council has a community reference group, more of overseeing that work, and the Berkeley Regional Council will provide an update as to where they are with their physical works in that aspect. Yeah.
Fantastic. And my last question, if I may, Madam Chair, regarding Peka Block, the expenditure on the infrastructure, good to see that project's pretty much coming to an end. When do we think we might get some return on that for our ratepayers?
As soon as Peka Blocks start getting people to occupy the lots they have created, and each lot will pay a developer contribution, to that effect.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move now to Councillor Brown and then Councillor Baru. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is my last opportunity to ask this question. We developed an environmental plan policy during our triennium. There was a couple of to-dos in that. One I'm particularly interested in was the debris socks. We were looking at trialling those. Have we made any progress on that?
Yeah, as part and parcel of, thank you, Councillor Brown. I think as part and parcel of our comprehensive stormwater concerns, we have undertaken to do modelling of debris arrestors, what we call, in stormwater, areas in some areas as a pilot models, and our stormwater team are monitoring, especially in cesspits, and pipelines that exit directly into some areas of the stream. It's not comprehensive yet, because we're looking some pilot tests, in that respect.
Sorry, we're doing that now, or that's to come?
We'll be doing it as part of a catchment management plan. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, when will we hear about the?
Oh, well, we expect the comprehensive stormwater consent to be ratified. We almost, we have agreed to just some logistics behind that. But as we go into this financial year now, which we are in the financial year, we're going to start giving effect to structure the capture management plan, which includes those debris arresters.
Okay, thank you very much.
Over the next 6 months, we'll start seeing some pilot areas to be popping up, here and there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And maybe we can report back some of the results that you're looking at into a progress report at a future meeting. Moving on now to Councillor Waru, wasn't it? Councillor Waru?
I'll take it. Thank you, Madam Chair. Kia ora, Stavros, thank you for the kōrero. Very interested in this thing in particular, because I was one of the ones we got stuck in 2018 in where I live, watching animals and all sorts of things just going past and waiting for the aqueduct to come and get us. So that was an experience. But what I wanted to ask was how I think you touched on it. The rainfall wasn't actually that hard where we were, but the rivers seemed to be quite high. My parents live right next to Rotorua River. I looked at Utahina as well. They're both rather high. How do we share, or how do we sort of emphasise those points with the regional council? Do we have a mechanism where we can actually do that? Because I'm not too sure if they actually take notice of that stuff. In that sense.
We do actually, Councillor Waro. The Berkeley Regional Council has in some area of the streams telemetry systems that monitor the levels of the streams as they fluctuate, and actually that's a foundation for them to give us warnings that we need to start mobilizing our civil defence areas. We don't always agree with it, to be perfectly honest. Sometimes they're too pessimistic, and we have to make a judgment call in that respect there too. Within the Utuhina area, for example, we have installed rain gauges, for ourselves to calibrate our flood, master plan, stormwater, master plan for rain gauges to monitor the effects of X volume of rain into the streams and how quickly the streams are raised. We also have, with the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, as earlier, convened a working group which focuses on two key areas. It's the optimization of maintenance of the streams, and the last one, we are going through a multi-criteria assessment of options for the lower Utuhina channel at the moment, which is it's a perennial issue. We're working through that. So we do collaborate with the regional council. The pace of that collaboration sometimes is not as fast as we would like it to be, but certainly we share information and data, and sometimes we do have some robust conversations about what we think and what they think, but that's part and parcel of of the piece of work we do.
Thank you, Stavros. I just think, with the more development happening in the district, and, certainly, I felt that the rainfall here in actual Rotorua itself didn't seem that heavy at the time. It just goes to show the effects of rain happening, Mamaku or something like that, how quickly things, even though we don't think about that. So maybe just a Rotorua challenge to you, maybe to have a bit more forceful with regional council to actually see the real deal. So, kia ora.
They say you should be afraid of slow rivers.
But not slow processes.
Thanks for those observations, Councillor Waru. We'll move on to Councillor O'Brien, then Councillor Kiriopa.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Thank you, Stavros, for your report. Just a very quick one, if I could. Could I just ask for a little bit of background? Where you say in the report here and just as putting on my public transport hat, Regional Council considering public transport options, most proposals will depend on RLC funding for changes. Now, can I just remind the public who may be watching that the actual funding of the service itself is done by Regional Council. I take it your comments are around the supporting infrastructure, such as stops, etc. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And when you say most proposals, are we working alongside them to try and advance these, or is everything just on hold due to funding?
No, they do. The Bay of Plenty Regional Council are master planning their public transport, services, and working with us. Sometimes, they have expectations that we will change some of our expectations about the routes, of public transport. As you are aware, we collectively as an organisation considering the future of the central business district as to how we want it to look like, and we want to be a bit careful as to not allow the public transport to dictate the nature of the CBD. So those discussions are taking place with the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, but they are the lead agency, and if we need to to accelerate some of our bus stops and shelters and so on, we do so within our allowable limits, obviously we've got. But I don't think anything we do or not do hinders, or constrains our ability to optimize the public transport services. Remember, there are funding considerations, subsidies considerations of the government, there are contracts between the regional council and bus services. These are not our responsibility. We will not involve into that. We simply provide advice as to where is our future development is going to be in terms of housing growth, where future demand is going to be, where our schools are located, and where we expect the facilities to support the public transport should be. But we're not aware that we're constraining any of that.
Thank you. And I suppose what my concern is, as you say, we're doing our part, but it seems to me the progress on the master plan seems to be, shall we say, not progressing as perhaps we'd all be hoping, but maybe that's something for the next council to follow up. Thank you. Thank you, Stavros.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll move to Councillor Kiriopa.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to follow on from Councillor Brown's question. Today we've heard that some concerns have been raised around safety of staff, gardening, and having to deal with traffic management. In the past, we've had quite strong support around this table for the replanting of our median strips in natives, and my question is, could we possibly address, is it an option, do you think, to address the issue of staff having to constantly be possibly put in danger by reflowering our median strips? Could that possibly be addressed, and would it work? Does it fit within the catchment plans to move towards native plantings?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Kiriopa. I'll ask Rob or Alex to respond to the planting because that's not my expertise.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Kiriopa. Rob will talk a little bit about that in our next report in terms of the update, but that is one of the options we're looking at, the nature of the type of planting to reduce the exposure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors. There appear to be no further questions for Stavros on this report, so thank you very much, Stavros. What we might do now is take a break for morning tea and come back at about 11:25, if that's okay. Thank you. Thank you for that short break. That was most appreciated. We'll now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is 7.4, the Progress Report for Active and Engaged Communities. This is on page 54 of your addendas. I just ask for a mover and a seconder that the report be accepted. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Seconded, Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That is carried. And I'll just invite Alex and Rob to come forward and give us an overview of their report and any key points they might like to make. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will pass over to Rob shortly and he'll talk through some of the key points and follow up on a couple of the conversations or discussions from our integration piece, which I think councillors will be interested in. Just before I do hand it over to him, I would just like to point out that Simon in the Parks team was recognised, it is in your pack, as Parks Person of the Year. The team tell me that that's like the Oscars, so the Oscars of Parks for New Zealand. So a huge recognition. He does amazing work, as you all know, and really just great to recognise him. So, but without, I get to take all the fuzzy stuff, so I'll pass over to Rob and he'll take you through the rest of the report.
Thank you, Alex, and through you, Madam Chair. We'll take the report as read. Quite a lot of the KPIs you will have seen in the previous report on the integration of the Works Department, but I will take a little bit of time to address, in particular, one of the questions that came up from Councillor Karioka about the what we are doing in terms of median strips and safety management and things like that. So part of the work that we were doing as the discussions around the STMS services were coming about was actually reassessing quite a lot of our median strips in our garden areas in the central city and in particular on the high traffic roads. If you've come down Fenton Street and had it turned onto Rotorua Street, you will have seen that we've got a number of median structures that have gardens in them, and quite a lot of those gardens actually come right to the very edge of the curb. So they occupy the full width of the median strip, in particular rose gardens, bedding gardens, and then we've also got some corners that are planted in such a way where they, in a more recent review that we've done, present undue hazards to staff working in those areas. So we're going through a process and looking at what gardens we can remove. And there will be a number that, well, we have already identified a number on Fenton Street and Rotorua Street that we consider need to be removed. They are in areas where traffic management will requires closure of half a lane, and they need to be managed accordingly. So there will be some of those that we're looking at removing. There will be some that we will be looking at reshaping that currently run the full width of the median strip, when another garden 10 metres down the strip will occupy 50% of the strip, i.e. the centre 50%, and give people room on the outsides to work. And then we're also doing a piece of work on what is in those gardens, whether they're bedding plants, roses or natives and things like that, because that dictates the frequency that they need to be attended to. So that's a piece of work that we have been doing with the roading engineers and also working with our Works Department gardening crew in terms of the hazards that they have identified and how they manage that. And we will be looking at some changes for some of those areas. So that's a part of the new traffic management rules that have actually come in relatively recently, are more around trying to actually identify the risks and eliminate them rather than ways to manage them. So we're taking a step under the new rules to look at where are areas we can make changes to. So that's a piece of work that we will probably be initiating before the next planting season, so within the next 2 or 3 months before the spring planting season. Happy to take any other questions on that or any other matters of the report.
Thank you, team, and we'll move on to questions. Councillor Kiriopa.
Thank you for that. Just on that, nowhere in what you just said did you include any environmental considerations And I just wonder how, as part of your processes, I mean, we've got an environmental management plan, which, you know, I'm not sure how within your systems and processes you consider that when you're making these decisions. But, you know, I've always stressed that that environmental plan, as far as I can see, didn't go far enough because we are the Lakes District, and in all of our decisions we need to be considering how we can protect our lakes, and particularly when we're looking at our roads, trying to mitigate the impacts of what's coming off our roads on our lakes should just be a normal, in my opinion, just a part of the process. And I didn't hear that in anything that you've just said, and I just wonder, how can we make it part of the process that when you look at these things, you need to be considering how to move towards being a water-sensitive city, even though I don't see that within the environmental management plan. I believe it should be, but yeah, how can we make better processes that consider environmental considerations in all of these decisions?
Thank you, and through the chair in response, a lot of those initiatives that can make potentially, well, can make meaningful changes, we are certainly assessing with capital works programs rather than operational work. And an example of that is, I think it's Hare Street, where we're looking at potential succession for trees and how we can do that in such a way that's going to lead to a better carbon effect, as well as meeting the needs for the road and the infrastructure, and capturing more water from the road itself rather than delivering it into stormwater. With the work that we're proposing with what I've just mentioned, I think, you know, they're high points, they're crests of the road, and certainly the intention is to, as much as we can, retain stormwater absorption capacities of those areas rather than just concreting the whole strip. There will be some areas where we may have to look at hard surfacing some critical corners or high danger, high hazard zones, but certainly the intention is to try and keep water absorption in those medium strips going. Where we can make a real change is when we come to asset renewal and infrastructure change process, which I know the inner city team is looking at. So that's probably where the opportunities are to bring more of that environmental program into our inner city streetscape in that process.
Thank you. Next we'll go to Councillor Lee and then Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, folks. The matter of tulips was quite a hot topic, a red hot topic, during the annual plan consultation in 2023. That might predate you a little bit, Alex and Andrew, so I just sort of flagged that for your attention. I would assume that any proposal to move away from our lovely gardens would be part of the annual plan for next year, would it?
Yes, certainly in terms of significant change. What we are also doing as part of this work in the inner city median strips is looking at, okay, what are alternative sites for providing amenity that don't have road safety issues with them. Edges of Ranoff Street on Kudau Park and things like that. So there may be other areas that people can drive past on their visits to and from town that provide that amenity without being in the middle of the road where there's 10,000 traffic movements a day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Councillor Patterson, then Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Rob and Alex. Just following on from Councillor Kiriopa's kōrero regarding the plantings that we utilise. I went to a very interesting presentation by the Rotorua Lakes Trust at the EEC a week or so ago, And during that presentation, a lady called Sarah Wharekura did her presentation on how to use harakeke flax to create mats to wipe out the lakeweed. A very ingenious concept. And she said from that comment was the biggest challenge that we have is actually getting the right kind of flax, and was encouraging local authorities, NZTA, etc., when you're doing flax plantings, please plant this so that it can be readily available to our people to make these flax beds. So that's just something I was wondering if you've heard of that concept before. It seemed to me very logical that we've got an ecological method that costs very little, that has got multiple community engagement and involvement in the process to end up with the result being a better lake. I just wondered if you'd considered that.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, we have. Part of the Kurdale Park redevelopment plan that was done several years ago identifies the area in the north-western part of the park that's particularly low-lying, and we've had vehicle damage issues, which many councillors will probably remember. That swamp, basically, that backs onto the marae off Tarewa Road. Sorry, I forgot the name of the marae. But that is an area that we have identified and have had some preliminary discussions with the marae about particular species and, creating a harakeke harvesting area in there. It's just a matter of actually getting the operational program in place to get it underway. But those sorts of areas where we have particularly wet and low-lying land are prime for that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Moving on to Councillor Brown and Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to touch on the CBD thing with planting and the comment. We're New Zealand's top tourism destination with a Māori focus, and we plant English gardens, English roses, tulips. I think we could have a think about what we plant and what story we're telling and how that complements the tourism story. Anyway, I'll leave that there. Just a question. The Tokarangi Triangle, is that our responsibility?
We hold the Crown Forest licence for Tokarangi Triangle, yes, so that management of vegetation on that area is our responsibility.
Okay. Do we have an environmental plan? Sorry, Madam Chair, through you, a few questions along the same lines. Do we have an environmental plan for that area, or is it just kind of, how do we manage that?
Yeah, not specifically an environmental plan for that area. It is managed much like the rest of council land. We know we have pest weed species in there, and certainly when identified by the regional council as needing control, then we action on those, much like we would on any reserve edge or blocks we might have on the side of Mount Nongataha or something like that. We currently don't have a active remove all pests from all council land operational program or budget for doing it.
Okay. You're right, and I'm aware that climbing spindleberry's been in there and you've had to manage it, but that's only one of many, and there's my perspective on that, looking at it from Tarawera Road, it's a weed-infested mess, and it's spreading pest weeds all over the show. What would you recommend on how we elevate that as a concern that needs to be dealt with in your mind?
I suppose we would need to develop a pest control plan for that area, calculate the funding required, and bring that before the council and say this is, if this is a priority weed management area, this is the estimated cost for looking after it.
Okay, well, that's one for the next council then, I guess. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Councillor. Thanks for raising it. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through the Chair, thank you both for your reports. If you're okay, Madam Chair, I won't touch on the very important topic of tulips versus flax. It's clearly going to be a hot topic in the mayoral debate, so I look forward to seeing that, or avoiding it, one or the other. As far as I'm aware, it's an operational matter, so I'm happy with whatever. I suppose just if I can reiterate a point previously made, though, here in the report it says that we have removed the need for the staff and contracted a qualified person to carry out the traffic monitoring work. Sorry to labour on a point, but is the private contractor's orange cones much better repelling a car going at 60 k's compared to our orange cones?
So you're asking about the health and safety?
Well, for me, if we're saying on one hand our staff were appropriately trained, so do we need to improve the appropriateness or upskill that particular? Whereas now we're spending money on someone else to do what? A much better job? A bigger number of cones? Like, I've got friends, I can get you cones if you're short on cash.
Thank you, Councillor. I guess what I can say is this is something we are actively managing, and we have plans afoot to address both the use of contractors that we're required to have at the moment, and to ensure that this is a service that we can cover within our team. And so there are plans afoot, but I can't really talk about that in any more detail at this stage.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, and please be aware that I fully support the points made by Councillor Brown around health and safety. I have no problem with that, and if your decision is to remove the particular tulip or whatever it's called, the flower, with something else for those reasons, that's operations, you have my support. But I am just concerned that if we have staff trained in a wider context, why we seem to then say, well, no, we'll change that, and then spend a lot more money, spend more money on someone else doing exactly the same work. Personally, that raises questions which I'll be raising offline. I think I've debated this long enough, but, it's a concern that at the time when we're talking about how an entity needs money and we need to reprioritise, forgive me, I'm just not seeing the benefit here. So, but we can talk about this another time. I appreciate it.
Noted, and we have a plan.
I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you take that offline as well, that'd be great. Thank you. And I'll move on to Councillor Waru. Thank you.
Tēnā koe te tiamana. Tēnā anō kōrua. Thank you for the report. Just touching a little bit on what Councillor Brown was talking about around our brand. Totally support that, their kaupapa. And I think, there's some simple things we could do to make that, work in terms of what Lani is talking about as well, Councillor Kireopa. So, it's just about doing the clever thinking, innovative thinking. The other point too is I take around the harakeke, on another trust I serve on, we recently just said, great idea, at a certain golf course in town here. I think Councillor Brown will know what I'm talking about, where we've said, yeah, go ahead with the harakeke, because it can be used for other things. That is the sustainability thing as well. So, think along those lines, and it'll probably work out a lot better and more practical, in a more practical sense. The question I had was, put that aside, was around the Prince's Gate arches. That's been on the cards for a while now. Don't know why it's taken so long, but I'm not saying it's us. Probably the inordinate amount of paperwork and things we have to tick off through the New Zealand, Heritage New Zealand. It's a great achievement. So with the methodology, it's just a replacement of the timber. Is there any other way or any kind of additions we could make in terms of adding to what the arches already, or to the arches that are going to be put and replaced?
Thank you, Councillor, for that question. It has taken a lot longer than we had hoped through Heritage New Zealand work. The original response from Heritage New Zealand was replace it as it slowly falls apart. So as each bit drops out of it, put a new piece in. After quite a lot of negotiation, we now can replace it as a whole. We haven't asked them if we could replace it with something that was different. Basically, the question was like for like. It's a Class 1 heritage structure. We would have imagined that to try and make alterations to it would probably have been even more difficult than what it's been at the moment. So the current plan is to basically rebuild it out of totara so that we can hopefully get another 100 years. And the tender is due to go out. The geotech's just been finished last Friday, and that information's to inform the tender, which is due to go out either late next week or early the week after, and that will require the successful tenderers to tell us about their source and supply of totara. But we're looking at a like for like.
Just through you, Madam Chair, just wonder that during that process, might you be able to ask, I suppose, what the boundaries are around what you can add, or what what the limits are, I suppose, in terms of adding particular thing, because that's a real important site. It's kind of a boom. You can have a boom moment, or it's just going to be one of those things at the moment. It's an opportunity we can use to again show our brand, show people who we are in Rotorua. So I just might be, I think, something for you to ask, maybe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Oh, and also shout out from my rallies out at the Rotoiti Way for the Haumingi Park with the Tiger Turf. They reckon all MBA now, so thank you very much.
Yeah, great facility and really set to that community, yes. And thanks to the Lakes Community Board for helping to fund that. Yeah. Any further questions, councillors? There appears to be none, so thank you very much, team. And I'd also like to back your comments for Simon Alfisio-Tuck and his award. Absolutely well done, and nice for him to be acknowledged for his hard work. So thank you very much for yours. Thank you. We'll now move on, councillors, and to page 60 of your agenda. I'd like to note that I'd like to move into public excluded. There's 2 items today to be considered in public excluded. 8.1 is the confidential minutes of the Infrastructure and Environment Committee meeting, and 8.2 is a financial report update for capital projects, the wastewater treatment plant. And the decision to do this is because it is necessary for the council to carry out without prejudice or disadvantage commercial activities. And in making this, the consideration has been given to the public interest in this matter, and the officer's advice is that the reasons for confidentiality outweigh the public interest in these matters. So can I have a mover and a seconder to move into public excluded? Thank you. That's Councillor Wang and Mayor Tapsell. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That is carried. And we'll just give a minute for the live stream to be turned on.